Good morning, students. Welcome you all for Next Generation Learning. Today we are going to see the subject Physics, Class 9. Chapter number 10, Gravitation. This chapter contains 7 topics. 10.1 Gravitation, 10.2 Free Fall, 10.3 Mass, 10.4 Weight, 10.5 Thrust and Pressure, 10.6 Archimedes Principle, 10.7 Relative Density. The last class we have seen about 10.1 Gravitation. Today's topics: 10.1.2 Importance of the Universal Law of Gravitation. Example sum 10.1, 10.2 Free Fall. The first topic is Universal Law of Gravitation. We already learnt that the Universal Law of Gravitation is given by Newton. So this law is also called as Newton's Law of Gravitation. According to the Universal Law of Gravitation, every object in the universe attract each other with a force. The force is directly proportional to product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance. This is universal law of gravitation, and the force, the direction of the force is along the line joining the center of the two bodies. So if you take the universe, in the universe so many objects are present. Every object attracts other object with a force. That force is called gravitational force. The value of the gravitational force is directly proportional to product of their masses and inversely proportional to square of the distance. These things we already learnt in the last class. And what are the importance of the universal law of gravitation? The first one, the motion of the moon around the earth. So look at this image. Look at this image. Here, this is a earth and this is a moon. The moon revolving around the earth. And both the objects are present in the universe. So according to the universal law of gravitation, every object in the universe attracts other object. Here, the earth attracts moon with a gravitational force. Due to that gravitational force, the moon revolves around the earth. If you take the second one, the motion of the earth around the sun. This is a sun and this is a earth. Due to the attraction of the sun and earth, the earth is revolving around the sun. So the force, the gravitational force is exerted between the sun and also earth. Not only the earth revolve around the sun. If you take a solar system, there are so many planets. The 8 planets are present in the solar system. All the planets are revolve around the sun because of the attraction between the sun and other planets. So which forces act between the sun and earth? the gravitational forces act between the sun and earth. The next application of universal law of gravitation is the tides due to the moon and sun. Have you seen the tides in the sea? Yes. The tides in the sea formed by a rising or falling water level in the sea. So when the tides will form? When the water level in the sea is rising or falling down, the tides will be formed in the sea. Why these tides are formed? Because due to the gravitational force of attraction which the moon and the sun exert on the water surface in the sea. So if you take a earth, we are living on the earth. So the sea, mountains and valleys, everything is present on the earth, surface of the earth. Due to the attraction of this is a sun and this is earth. The earth is revolved around the sun and the moon is revolved around the earth. Due to the attraction between the sun and the moon, form tides in the sea. So who form tides in the sea? The gravitational force between the moon and the sun forms the tides in the surface of the sea. Do you understand what are the importance of the universal law of gravitation? The moon revolves around the sun and the earth revolves around the sun, and the tides formed in the sea. So everything is because of the gravitational force. The next one is Kepler's law of planetary motion. Till now we learnt about the Newton's law of gravitation. Now we are going to learn Kepler's law of planetary motion. So who is that Kepler? Johannes Kepler was 16th century astronomer. He given 3 law of motion which governs the motion of the planets around the sun. If you take a solar system, you know that the sun is present at the center. All other planets are revolve around the sun. So he is given 3 laws which govern the motion of the planets around the sun. So these laws are called Kepler's law of planetary motion. And the same law also described the motion of the satellites like the moon around the planets like the earth. So the Kepler's law not only explained the movement of the planet around the sun, it also explained the movement of the satellites like moon around the earth. The natural satellite of earth is moon. So the moon also revolves around the earth. So the planetary motion of the planet, Kepler's law of planetary motion gives, one is the motion of the planets around the sun. The next one, it also explains that the motion of the satellites around the planets. This is the Kepler's first law. Look here, look at these 2 images. The second one is animation. This is the sun and this is the earth. That means it is one of the planet. So the planets move in elliptical orbit. If you take a solar system, all the planets are moving in elliptical orbit, not in circle. This is circle. This is elliptical. And the circle has only one center, only one focus. But if you take a elliptical, it has 2 focus. One is here and another one is here. Do you understand what is the difference between the circle and elliptical? This is elliptical. The elliptical has two focus. One is here and another one is here. If you take a circle, it has only one focus. This is the difference between the circle and elliptical. So the planets move in elliptical orbit, not circle orbit, around the sun, with the sun at one of the two foci of the elliptical orbit. So if you take a elliptical, there are the two focus. The sun is placed at one focus. This law means that the orbit of a planet around the sun is an ellipse, that means oval shape, not an exact circle. An elliptical path has two foci and the sun is at one of the two foci of the elliptical path, and this is shown in figure. And a planet P is moving around the sun in elliptical orbit. The elliptical orbit has two foci F1 and F2. The sun is situated the focus F1. So the Kepler given a clear idea about how the planets move around the sun. They move in elliptical orbit, and there are the two focus for elliptical orbit. At any one of the focus, the sun is placed. This is the first law of Kepler's. And see the second animation. Here the planets are moving along the elliptical orbit and the sun is placed at one focus. There are the two focus for elliptical orbit. In second law of Kepler is, each planet revolves around the sun in such a way that the line joining the planet to the sun sweeps over equal area in equal interval of time. Do you understand the meaning of this sentence? If you take a planet, you know that in Kepler's first law is given that the planets are moving along the elliptical orbit. The sun is placed at one of the foci. Okay, so each planet revolves around the sun in such a way that the line joining the planet to the sun, here I am joining, this is a line between the planet and sun, and it moves from A to B. I joined here. So it covers this much of distance when it moves from A to B. The same thing if you come to here, the planet is here, so I am joining the line between Earth and the sun. And the Earth moved from C to D, so now the position of Earth is here, I joined here. So this much of distance it covers C to D. So it in Kepler's second law says that equal areas in equal interval of time. So if you take A to B, it take 4 days to complete from A to B. The same thing, it takes 4 days to complete C to D, and it covers equal area. This is Kepler's second law. Now Kepler's second law says that each planet revolves around the sun in such a way that the line joining the planet to the sun sweeps equal area in equal interval of time. That means A to B it takes 4 days, means the same C to T also take 4 days. A planet does not move with a constant speed around the sun. And see this animation in the second animation. Here the planet are moving around the sun, and see the speed of the planet. When it near to the sun, near to the sun, the speed is greater. When it is away from the sun, the speed is less. And see, a planet does not move with constant speed around the sun. That means the speed is greater when the planet is near to the sun and less when the planet is further away from the sun. Do you understand? The sun sweeps over equal areas in equal interval of time, and also the speed is greater when near to the sun, and when it is away from the sun, the speed is less. So what is Kepler's third law? The cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun is directly proportional to the square of time it takes to move around the sun. Do you understand this sentence? If you take a solar system, this is sun, and take this is earth, take some other planet, this is Mars. So this is the distance between the sun to earth, and this is the distance between the sun to Mars. This is the Mars, and this is the earth, and this is the sun. So the distance between the sun to earth is r, and also the distance between the sun to Mars also r. And the sun, earth takes time to complete one revolution. That time is called t. That is time period. See this sentence. The cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun. So this is the distance between the planet to the sun. So the cube of means you have to put the 3. The cube of the mean distance is, this is the mean distance, or is the mean distance. The cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun is directly proportional to the square of time it takes to move around the sun. So it take t time to complete one revolution. So the square of time, it is directly proportional to the square of the time it takes to move around the earth. So this is the meaning of this statement. I hope you understood. The cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun is directly proportional to the square of time it takes to move around the sun. So it is written r cube directly proportional to t squared. So removing this proportionality, we can add one constant. So the constant into t squared. And now r cube by t squared equal to constant. You know that the constant means the value does not change. And here the r is the mean distance of a planet from the sun, and t is the time period of the planet around the sun. And look at this table. They given the different planet name, Mercury to Pluto, and they given the mean distance value also, and they given time period. And see, this is a sun, and this is a earth, this is a earth. So the main distance is 149.6 into 10 power 6 kilometer. So the distance between the sun to earth is 149.6 into 10 power 6 kilometer. See, here they given the power. And the period, it takes year, 1 year. So the earth takes to complete one revolution for 1 year. That means 365 days it takes to complete one revolution. Yes or no? In Earth we know that it takes 1 year to complete. The 1 year is nothing but it is equal to 365 days. And the distance between the Earth to Sun is 149.6 into 10 power 6 kilometer. So when we divide the R cube value, so you have to cube this value 149.6 into 10 power 6 cube by t square. What is the t? 1 square. If you divide this, you can get 3.35. For Earth, R cube by t squared is 3.35. If you take some other planet, you take Mercury, and see this is Earth, and this is Mercury, and the distance between the Earth to Mercury is 57.9 into 10 power 6, and it takes 0.241 year. And when we divide this R cube value by t squared, we get 3.34. So if you divide R cube by t squared for in all the planet, it gives the constant value 3.34, 3.34, 3.34. So from this we can say that R cube by t squared equal to constant. The constant is nothing but in all the planets it gives the same value. So we can say that that is constant. This is the Kepler's third law of motion. I hope you understood Kepler's first law, second law and third law. And inverse square rule. What is meant by inverse square rule? The force between two bodies is inversely proportional to the square of distance between them is called inverse square rule. Yes, we know that if you take a two object, the gravitational forces between these two, and this force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. So this rule is called inverse square rule. This is the example sum 10.1. The mass of Earth is 6 into 10 power 24 kilogram and the moon is 7.4 into 10 power 22 kilogram. If the distance between the Earth and the moon is 3.84 into 10 power 5 kilometer, calculate the force exerted by the Earth on the moon. This is a moon. Sorry, this is a Earth. And you know that this is a moon because the moon is revolve around the Earth. The mass, this is the center point of the Earth and this is the center point of the moon. So the distance between these two is 3.84 into 10 power 5 kilometer. And this mass is we taken as a capital M and this mass is we can take it small m. So the mass of the moon is 7.4. The mass of the Earth is 6 into 10 power 24. You have to calculate the force exerted by the Earth on the moon. So the solution, listen, the mass of the Earth capital M is 6 into 10 power 24 kilogram. It is given. And the mass of the moon, the small m is taken as 7.4 into 10 power 22 kilogram. Distance between the Earth and the moon is, that is R, 3.84 into 10 power 5 kilometer. Here the kilometer is converted into meter, so we can multiply by 1000. So when we multiply by 1000, we get 3.84. see here 10.5, in 1000 we can write 10.3. So already 5 and 3, when we add 5 and 3 we get 10.8 meter. And you know the value of G, that is a constant value, 6.7 into 10 power minus 11 Newton meter squared kilogram power minus 2. By the universal law of gravitation, we know that F equal to G capital M by M into small m by R squared. The G value is 6.7 into 10 power minus 11. The capital M value is 6 into 10 power 24. The small m value is 7.4 into 10 power 22. And the value of R is 3.8 into 10 power 8. Now squared, we have to use square. And here I took the decimal values separately. 6.7, 6, 7.4. And here we written the powers separately. 10 power minus 11, 10 power 24, 10 power 22. And see here 3.84 square, 10 power 8 into square. This square will be writing separately. This square is common for both the values. So 3.84 square into 10 power 8 square. And minus 11, 24 plus 20, plus 24 plus 22. So we written commonly 10 power minus 11 plus 24 plus 22. Here 10 into 10 power 8 into 2. That means 10 power 16. When we multiply these values, we get 297.48. And see here minus 11 plus 24 and plus 22. So plus 24 and plus 22 is 46. Now 46 minus 11, 5, 35. So 10 power 35. In a down, 10 power 16. In a 3.84 square is 14.74. Now the 10 power 6 come up. When it come up, it takes negative sign. So 10 power 35, 10 power minus 16. When we subtract, we get 10 power 19. So 10 power 19, 297.48 by 14.74. When we divide this 297.48 by 14.74, and see here we have to multiple 100 by both the side. When we multiple 100, we get 29748. In down 1474. In 10 power 19, 10 power 19. So when we divide 29748 by 1474, we get 20.18 into 10 power 19. If I multiply by 10, I got 2.018 into 10 power 20. So 2.02 into 10 power 20 Newton. We can write in approximately 2.02. So the force exerted by the earth on the moon is 2.02 into 10 power 20 Newton. The next topic is free fall. What is the meaning of the free fall? What is the meaning of this free fall? So let us try to understand the meaning of the free fall by performing this activity. For doing this activity, you have to take a stone. And you have to take a stone and throw upwards. When we throw up, it reaches a certain height. and then it starts falling down. Yes or no? Yes. Have you checked this in your day-to-day life? Whenever we throw up the objects, it reaches a certain height. After that, it then start falling down. We have learned that the earth attracts objects towards it. This is due to the gravitational force. See here. Why the objects are falling towards the earth? Because the earth attracts objects with the gravitational force. Due to that gravitational force, every objects are attracted towards the earth. Whenever objects fall towards the earth under this force alone, we say that the objects are in free fall. So here we are giving some force. Due to that force, it reaches certain height. After that, it started to fall down. So when it fall down, it has attracted towards the earth. So only the gravitational forces occur in the objects and earth. So this type of objects are, we can say that, free fall. Only the gravitational forces act in between of the objects and earth. Here we are giving the muscular force. Is there any change in the velocity of falling object? See. Is there any change in the velocity of falling object? In a velocity means the direction should have changed. Is there any change in direction here? There is no change. The objects are falling only in a same direction. So there is no change in direction. But the velocity of the object is changed. And see here, we have some gap. The gap is increasing. It is represent that the velocity of the object is changing when it fall down. When the magnitude is changed, the magnitude is nothing but here 5 meter per second means here 10 meter per second, here 20 meter per second, here 25 meter per second. So see, the 5, 10, 20, 25 are the magnitude. But the direction should not change. It is south, south, south. 1 second, I will write clearly. See, the objects are fall towards the earth. Maybe here the velocity is 5 meter per second. In second, 10 meter per second. In third one, 50 meter per second. In fifth one, 20 meter per second. But all the objects are in same direction, in a south direction. So the direction does not change, but the magnitude of the velocity is changed. When the magnitude of the velocity is changed, the acceleration is automatically occur in the object. So they ask the question, is there any change in the velocity of falling object? Yes. While falling, there is no change in the direction of motion of the object. There is no change in direction, but the magnitude of the will be change in the magnitude of the velocity. So any change in velocity involves acceleration. If a velocity is changed means the acceleration occur. Whenever an object falls towards the earth, an acceleration is involved. This acceleration is due to the gravitational force. So whenever the object falls towards the earth, the acceleration occurs because of the gravitational force. So this acceleration is called acceleration due to the gravitational force. So we can say that this type of accelerations are called acceleration due to gravity. This is not normal acceleration. This acceleration is called as acceleration due to gravity. Because of the gravitational force, this free fall is accelerated. So that this type of accelerations are called acceleration due to gravity. And it is denoted by the small letter g. In chapter number 8 and 9, we learn that the acceleration is represented by the letter A. That is a normal acceleration. But when the object of free fall, due to the gravitational force, the free fall accelerated. Thus, that type of accelerations are called acceleration due to gravity. That acceleration is represented by the small letter g. And the unit of this g is also meter per second square. The normal acceleration also meter per second square, and the acceleration due to gravity also meter per second square. Dear students, I hope you understood what is meant by the free fall. If you have any doubt, you can ask through the teachment. Thank you for watching the video. Take your book and open the chapter number 10, Gravitation. And just scroll down. Today I taught inverse square rule and Kepler's 3 laws. See, the r cube by t squared equal to constant. And the example sum 10.1, importance of the gravitational law of gravitation, importance of the universal law of gravitation, and free fall. In free fall, I completed up to this. The next class we will see the remaining topics. Thank you.